Okay. Would you like to read, Keith? Thanks. Can make it bigger or small.
Yeah. Chapter 19, Devotional Service and Love of God. When one's desire to love Krishna in his particular relationship becomes intensified, this is known as pure love of Godhead. In the beginning of a devotee is engaged in the regulative principles of devotional service by the order of his spiritual master. When one thereby becomes completely purified of all material contamination, there develops an attachment and taste for devotional service. This taste and attachment, when gradually intensified in the course of time, becomes love. The word love can only be actually applied in relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, love is not applicable at all. That goes, well, that's already a pretty good feeling.
It's no love here. I mean, Prabhupada doesn't deny the love towards the others too, but it's from my feeling, it's in context to the Supreme Personality of God.
Yeah.
Love is there, but if it's not to Krishna first, like Prabhupada gives this example with the stomach. If the stomach is not receiving the food stuff, no one's going to receive the food stuff. So if Krishna doesn't receive the love, no one's going to receive the love.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think, like, I loved my grandmother. That was pretty nice. But love of God must be way more amazing if that's not even considered love.
Yeah, well, you spoke in past tense, right? So it's something. Love is always. You love now and you love forever, and it's ever increasing.
Yeah. So
Prabhupada actually he addresses the love, the most pure love in the material world is the love between a mother and her child. It's the closest to unconditional love, I'm going to skip that example, but even that, it ends. Mother might lose her child, the child might, die, or the mother will die, and it comes to an end. But that's like Prabhupada, he says, not even, I wanted to research it once, if it's like between a father to his son, or a father to his children, but specifically a woman and her connection with her offsprings, it's a very intense love. Like, I mean, I have my problems with my mother, for example, but she knows when I'm going through something heavy in my life, she immediately calls me like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Mm.
There is, when I was studying like astral bodies and astral projections and all that stuff, I mean, that's like wild theory, but I kind of believe in it, that there is a very like thick knot between the mother, just like we were connected to the mother in the womb. So the astral body is connected to the body of the mother after birth even.
Yeah, I've had this psychic experience with my brother more clearly, but I definitely continued to feel a connection with my mother even after she died. And then I know that she became a ghost, and I just felt she was a ghost. And she was following us around, and I could feel her. She came to me in some dreams, and and then
maybe she heard you chanting Hare Krishna here and there.
She was in it. I knew there was one time I went to the temple with Vaisheshekha. First time I met him.
Yes.
And I was chanting. He was chanting.
Vaisheshekha from Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he was chanting, and then somehow I felt that my mother had come there with me, and that by being in that atmosphere, she became super purified and became like an angelic. That's what I felt anyway at the time. She got elevated to like an angelic being that was.
They immediately go I don't know what's the situation with your mother, but any like ghost or anything like that, he immediately gets, he obtains a body. Like the ghost, why it's so difficult to be a ghost, because you don't get any body.
Yeah.
Like literally you don't get a body, and then you're just stuck forever.
But I heard in a class before, like in relation, this guy, you kill yourself, then you become a ghost, right? And they were telling him,
or very sinful people too. Like coma is if someone is in coma, it means that he's going to be a ghost.
Oh yeah.
After. It's basically Yamaraj cannot ascertain what punishment to give to this rascal. So he just puts him on hold, like, oh boy, like, it's going to take me a while, so just hold.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, well, but this, he was a ghost. They knew he was a ghost. So I'm pretty sure I heard this in the Ramana Swami video. That's sure that's where. Anyway, they suggested to him to give have the picture of the person who was a ghost and offer prasadam to him.
Pinda.
Yeah. And then because the person is they're no longer attached to the gross material body, because it's like lower level consciousness. You're in the mind is in the higher frequency of material nature. So in that circumstance, then the person came back to them in a dream, telling them that they got like huge amounts of karma, like, you know, like this, like billions of lifetimes worth of karma just erased by that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, Pinda Putra. That's one of the reasons to have children. So the children, they can do that what you were explaining. They can rescue us if we become sinful and we go to some, you know, ghost or some hellish planets. Then the kids, they can offer oblations. Lord Chaitanya, actually, that's how he found his spiritual master. He wanted to offer oblations to the footprint of Krishna in Gaia. And the Gaia is like a big mecca for all the Vedic followers that go there in a specific day in the year to offer oblations to the forefathers and rescue them from abominable condition. And that's how he met Ishvara Puri. He met Ishvara Puri there and he got initiated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's one of the only reasons to have children.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's still, that's like Vedic ritual from ancient times, right? They offer the sweet.
If the children are not rascals, you can do it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's such a beautiful concession that Krishna gives us, that like we can receive the blessings from our children's offerings. Like that's what happened with my dad. Like when my dad was dying in the hospital room, I took my tosi off, I put it around his neck, and he died. And then when they cremated him, there was like a tosi branch that had like naturally fallen off. I had them burn that with him, and I offered the food to his picture and everything. So, and he lived a very sinful life in some ways. So yeah, it's just so like beautiful that because he loved me and I loved him, like that was like, I felt inspired to give that back to him, and then he receives those blessings. Like there's just so much mercy from Krishna that's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, we can appreciate Krishna in this process that he gives us, even in the material world, to rescue one another.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
From hellish life.
Yeah.
Even while we're living, it's still like giving prasadam, sharing prasadam. You know, you remind people of Krishna.
Yeah.
And saving them from hellish condition.
Yeah. Well, I had recently was listening to Ayendra class. I lost my MP3 player just before I came here, but on there I had a class of Ayendra, and he was in India and basically left his family behind. And at some point when his father was dying, his brother, this was like 10 years, he just disappeared. Nobody even knew where he was at. And his brother somehow found him and told him that their father was dying. And he was like,
Ayendra's father.
Yeah, Ayendra. And he was like, whatever, you know. But then he got a dream where some like angelic being came and said, no, your father was a fallen disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and you specifically took birth in his family to save him, you know. And
go and see him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then that's what he did. He took. Yeah. He said, okay, well, is he going to be cremated or not? And he said, yes, he's going to be cremated. He said, acha. He's like, I don't want to go back to America, but he took off his beads and sent, and he said, this is an expression of my love from your estranged son. Make sure that you wear these when you die. And then he quoted the Tulsi Mahatmya, that if somebody is cremated in the fire, if even one piece of Tulsi, that they attain Golokdam.
They attain what?
Golokdam. Goloka.
When? Like immediately?
I imagine, I guess. I mean, maybe they could go to like the one, like when Krishna comes on the earth, because I heard sometimes if the souls aren't quite ready to go back to they aren't quite ready to go back to the spiritual world, then they'll go to when Krishna comes on the earth to kind of like any last little purification. So it could be
there's a portion of
world.
Prabhupada, he sometimes says like that. It's like, if you remember Ajamil's story, so Ajamil, he was sinful, then by uttering once the names of God, he went, sometimes Prabhupada says he went back home back to God, but when you read in details, he got an opportunity to go back home back to God. It means he got an opportunity to continue to purify his existence. So many times, like, this opportunity we give to our parents or our children is, I mean, it would be nice if they just go back home back to God, but it's kind of like automatic in a sense, and like, where is the free will there, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
So my understanding is that in some, and I read it in some instances, I can send it to you after, how Prabhupada gives that as an example, that we give them an opportunity to take birth in a place where they can pick up from where we left, even Krishna consciousness. You know, that we're practicing and we're pulling all our forefathers to take birth in conducive atmosphere for Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Like Ajamil, he got actually.
So I guess he could have born maybe in Vrindavan or something like that. Right?
Yeah, he got a big shortcut because his son was a devotee.
Yeah.
But certainly it's very glorious either way.
Yeah.
Maybe we continue reading to keep track with the topic.
Okay.
But thank you for sharing. That was very nice.
Yeah. In the material world, love is not applicable at all. What goes under the name of love in the material world is nothing but lust. There is a gulf of difference between love and lust, like the difference between gold and iron. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is clearly stated that when lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Godhead and the concept of kinship is completely reposed in him, such is accepted as pure love of God by great authorities like Bhishma, Prahlad, Uddhava, and Narada. A great authority like Bhishma has explained that love of Godhead means completely giving up all so-called love for any other persons. According to Bhishma, love means to repose one's affection completely upon one person, withdrawing all affinities for any other person. This pure love can be transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead under two conditions out of ecstasy and out of causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself.
Could you read the sentence?
This pure love can be transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead under two conditions. Out of ecstasy and out of the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself.
Interesting how causeless mercy plays a role there. The transformation between lust and love.
It's really amazing that we're reading this, because I had a really profound experience this morning that is really personal. I won't share about it, but it's just really interesting that we're reading this because it explains an experience I had earlier. Yeah.
I'm guessing it must have been a good one. Ecstatic love of Godhead can be potently evoked simply by following the rules and regulations of devotional service as they are prescribed in scriptures, under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 38th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this ecstatic love, born of the execution of regulative devotional service, is explained. A devotee in the course of executing the regulative principles of devotional service develops his natural Krishna consciousness, and being thus softened at heart, he chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he sometimes cries, sometimes talks wildly, sometimes sings, and sometimes, without caring for any outsider, dances like a madman. Let's breathe.
Maybe Brielle, she would like to read.
Sure. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement about ecstatic love born of spontaneous affection. Chandrakanti, a celebrated fair-faced girl, rigidly observed celibacy in order to obtain Krishna as her husband. She always engaged herself in meditating on the transcendental form of the Lord and always chanted the glories of the Lord. She did not desire to accept anyone else as her husband. She had firmly decided that only Lord Krishna would be her husband. When a devotee is found to be always associated with the Lord in ecstatic love, it is to be understood that such a position is awarded by the Lord himself out of his causeless extraordinary mercy. An example of such extraordinary mercy is given in the 11th canto, 12th chapter, 6th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, "The gopis in Vrindavan did not study the Vedas to achieve me, nor had they ever been in holy places of pilgrimage, nor did they devoutly execute any regulative principle, nor did they undergo any kind of austerity. It is simply by my association that they have attained the highest perfection of devotional service." From the example of Chandrakanti, as found in the Padma Purana, and from the example of the gopis as found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it appears that a devotee who always thinks of Krishna and who always chants his glories in ecstatic love, regardless of his condition, will attain the highest perfection of unalloyed devotional love due to Lord Krishna's extraordinary mercy. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If Hari, the Supreme Lord, worshipped, adored, and loved by a person, it should be understood that the person has finished all kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for self-realization. On the other hand, if after undergoing all types of austerities, penances, and mystic yoga practices, one does not develop such a love for Hari, then all his performances are to be considered a useless waste of time.
Yeah,
If someone...
Interesting how this verse, Prabhupada mentions this verse, and there are two instances this verse appears, like the first one is Shramayava Kevalam Dharma Sya Pavargasya. No, that's something else. But if one doesn't develop love for God, then what is the use of his labor? It's useless. And then the second instance in the second canto, it mentioned how by one utterance of the holy name, it should be understood that you already went to all the holy places, collected all the water, offered oblations to all the forefathers, and went to all the tirthas. And because sometimes people, they sort of, like I spoke to this one girl from LA yesterday, one Mataji, and she was like, she expressed her experience about hearing kirtan for the first time. She did like her yoga teacher training, and her teachers happened to be actually Hare Krishnas that did like did the yoga instructors retreat. And she couldn't understand, why the hell are you chanting the same freaking thing over and over again? She used like foul language even, because she was like it really agitated her. And yeah, this is like this feeling of missing out on something. It's a material feeling that cannot be applied on the holy name, because as soon as you understand that in the name Krishna, everything you might have done, or should have done, or could have done, or would have done. It's all there, regardless of where you think you've been before or where you're going to be in the future. It just puts you in a completely different level right away.
Yeah.
There's nothing beyond this name, Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. And I mean, I'm sure we all have that experience to some degree, like sitting and chanting for 2 hours in the morning. We could have done so many other things with 2 hours in 4 in the morning. Like, it's the best time to do the most important thing, but we choose to do that thing because day after month after year after lifetime, we feel that this is the most important thing. So I don't feel I'm missing out on anything when I chant Hare Krishna. Quite the opposite. If I will not chant Hare Krishna, I will miss out my whole day. I mean, like there's a saying, if you don't see the sunrise, you don't see the day, or something like that. So if you don't see Krishna in the morning, you know, the Bhagavatam says your eyes are like peacock, feathers? If you don't walk to the temple, your legs are like trunk of trees. If you don't glorify Krishna with your voice, your lungs are like bellows, say. Bellows of the guy who makes like swords and stuff. And I always forget the name of this craftsman. Anyways, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Blacksmith,
yeah.
All right. Want to keep reading?
Okay, thank you for sharing. If someone always sees Krishna inside and out, then it is to be understood that he has surpassed all austerities and penances for self-realization. And if after executing all kinds of penances and austerities, one cannot always see Krishna inside and out, then he has executed his performances uselessly. Would you like to read, or would you like me to keep going?
Yeah, I can read. Spontaneous attraction to Krishna, which is said to be due to the extraordinary mercy of the Lord, can be placed under 2 headings. One is profound veneration for the greatness of the Lord, and the other, what is that?
Extraneous.
Spontaneous attraction. One is performed. One is performed.
Veneration.
Veneration for the greatness, like it's like being grave, like veneration.
You know, actually, I don't know what that word means.
Regard with great respect, revere. Mother Teresa is venerated as a saint.
Yeah.
See, not
yeah.
It's a Latin word. For the greatness of the Lord, and the other may be one's automatically being attracted to Krishna without any extraneous consideration. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is said that if on account of profound veneration for the greatness of the Supreme Lord, one attains a great affection and steady love for him, one is certainly assured of attaining the 4 kinds of Vaishnava liberations, namely achieving the same bodily features as the Lord, achieving the same opulence as the Lord, dwelling on the planet where the Lord is residing, and attaining eternal association with the Lord. The Vaishnava liberation is completely different from the Mayavadi liberation, which is simply a matter of being immersed into the effulgence of the Lord. In the Narada Pancharatra, pure analog devotional service is explained as being without any motive for personal benefit. If a devotee is continuously in love with Lord Krishna and his mind is always fixed upon him, that devotional attitude will prove to be the only means of attracting the attention of the Lord. In other words, a Vaishnava who is incessantly thinking of the form of Krishna is to be known as the pure Vaishnava. I just like had a flashback from my godbrother, how he would ask me like almost every day. He asked me, if I thought about Krishna, like about if I meditated on his form, And I was always like embarrassed to say like no. Even like today, like I mean, we have this nice tapestry of Krishna for that purpose. Kind of, that's how I feel. Prabhupada even says specifically, purify sex desire. If you just meditate on Krishna, for both for men or women, because Krishna he includes all of that. He has wide hips like a woman. He has long hands. Like I heard in the Bhagavatam actually says that women are captivated by the upper part of the hands, or like the hands. They're like snakes. Anyways, so yeah, by meditating on this form, we can get so much purification just by the form. You know, many religions, when I converse with religions, all the time ask me the same question: why did I choose Hinduism, Vedic culture, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and it's like it's obvious. You know, there's no mentioning of the form of God anywhere you go. Like they speak about similar concepts. You know, God is one, love God, love this, but because there's no form of God, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
Somewhere there is like a clue, like in Quran it says God, his color is blackish, is grayish, is like a cloud, described like that.
Yeah.
That's I think the closest scripture to like the accurate form.
In the Sikh tradition, it describes him as a blackish boy with flute.
Yeah, killer of the elephant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they really describe very precisely his pastimes there, but
oh yeah,
they just no one can bring it because the all impersonalists, if they accept the form of God, you know, it's gonna go against this principle of formlessness.
Yeah.
I believe the Kabbalah also has something about God being a blue boy. In Kabbalah, one of the texts, I don't know which one.
If you have something like that, we will be happy to read.
Dear Govinda is the one who told me that.
Yeah.
I don't have the actual reference.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned the form, but yeah, I don't remember if they have the actual.
The Bible and shows up as like a burning bush, you know. So like, how much better?
It can be ganja.
Wow.
Can be some bush of ganja.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is something. It's like, you know, like speaking about principles of purification, religion, or spiritual practice. There is no process that offers purification and the process that you actually involved in your liberated state right away. There's always some credentials that you need. Well, first you need to be a rabbi, or you need to be a class 3, or you need to be a chief or chuf or this or that, or you need to smoke a bidi like that, or, you know, in the Vaishnava tradition, you right away you start practicing and working, serving in your constitutional position, like what we do now.
You're doing the activities that they do in the spiritual world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is so inconceivably unique. You know, you don't need any.
Makes
any damn other separated process.
Makes sense to me. You know.
Yeah.
Behave like they do in the spiritual world. Learn how to behave like they do in the kingdom of God.
Yeah. Yeah, this key word actually, I kind of highlighted that in my mind, this attitude Prabhupada speaks about. Lord Krishna and his, if a devotee is continuously in love with Lord Krishna and his mind is always fixed upon him, that devotional attitude, Rupa Goswami so many times stresses this importance of developing devotional attitude or service attitude, he calls it many times. Simultaneously to chanting, one should develop his service attitude. It's the qualification of accepting pure devotional service.
That's the two tracks on the train tracks, right? Service attitude and chanting. I can't remember.
there are different analogies about the two train tracks. I'm not sure if that's there too. Maybe.
I was just one. I can't remember what they were. I was wondering how it was, but yeah.
Yeah, service attitude it's the most important thing, because we read, I think I read with you, we read like personally about what is initiation and how initiation is actually the service, the initiative to do service to the spiritual master. And there's an example, a really wild example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how a Muslim king who was completely drunk, he came to Lord Chaitanya, a Muslim that was drunk. It's quite interesting already.
Yeah.
He came to Lord Chaitanya offering him service, and Krishna Kaviraj Das Goswami says he got initiated simply by his attitude, serving the Lord's feet of a pure devotee.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And he was drunk while he did that. You know, one of our godbrothers, my godbrother who trained me, he called him once he called him from the bar in the middle of the night, and he told him, I want to translate Prabhupada's books to Slovak language. He's from Slovakia. And he was completely drunk, and my godbrother, he instructed him how to do it, and 3 years after, you know, he is a pure Vaishnava, you know, a very pure soul.
What is the instruction he said? Sorry again.
He asked him if he can translate Prabhupada's books to Slovakian language, because not all of the books were translated to that language, or the letters or something like that. And my godbrother could have told him, well, where are you, man? Because he could hear, he's in the bar, like he's like drunk, but he wanted to translate Prabhupada's books, like to hell where he wanted to do that. But he wanted to do that, and that was sufficient. That's actually the initiation. What's the use of taking initiation but not taking initiative on one's spiritual life? You know? And what is that initiative? Is that you do something for the spiritual master.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that, how devotees, they're initiated like that. And that's what Prabhupada would always pay attention to.
Ramnath Swami said in the class that the real initiation is when you accept the mood of service to your guru.
Yeah, and you serve the guru, yeah. In the right service.
Yeah.
So the last paragraph on the page.
Generally, a devotee who has achieved the causeless mercy of the Lord on account of following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service becomes attracted by the supreme greatness of the Lord, by the transcendental beauty of the Lord, and by the spontaneous execution of devotional service. To be more clear, by executing the regular principles of devotional service, one can fully appreciate the transcendental beauty of the Lord. In any case, such exalted positions are only possible by the extraordinary mercy of the Lord upon the devotee. Association with pure devotees. Although many different processes...
You can wait maybe for her if she went somewhere.
Okay.
It's an important chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the banana, it's not even the 16 rounds and 4 eggs. You know, like the devotees in 1966, they didn't know anything about the regulative principles until they were supposed to follow them. Maybe you heard like that story, you know, Prabhupada just put it on the front window and he announced, by the way, because you got initiated, you have to follow this. He didn't even say it. He didn't say even what it is.
Yeah, you initiated them first.
Yeah, like a day before they were still like eating meat. And that was like my experience.
Wow.
Like, a day before I joined the temple, I was smoking pot, and I don't remember if I was eating meat. Like I was not really like, I think so, like in some indirect way, because like meat is everywhere, especially in North America. But yeah, I was completely stoned and like, but I joined the temple, and I just sobered up like immediately on the spot.
Nice.
Where did you join the temple? Where was it?
Where or when?
Where?
Where? In Montreal.
Montreal.
Parc Extension.
Yeah.
Indian town.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps. Becoming a vegetarian wasn't an issue for me either, because you just move in the temple and everything's prepared for you, and then you just get habituated to it.
But I mean, why I mentioned that is that's not the real beginning of spiritual, like following the principles is not really the beginning of the spiritual life. It's the service of the spiritual master. That's when our spiritual life starts. Like Prabhupada, there are too many beautiful letters between newcomers, people who don't follow any damn thing, and they want to do service, and the devotees, they kind of challenge Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, shouldn't the books be translated by devotees? Or shouldn't this be done by devotees? Shouldn't devotees, they're so external in their understanding of who is a devotee, that a person comes and he does what a devotee does, they don't understand that this is a devotee. And Prabhupada really nicely puts everything on the really, what is the standard of being a devotee? That because they took initiative to do service for the society, for the spiritual master, they are devotees. You know, like George Harrison, he was doing many wild things, but Prabhupada always considered him as my uninitiated disciple.
Nice. Yeah, I heard somebody told me that not that long ago in Vancouver. I can't remember who, but anyway, they said that if you accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you're a devotee.
Of course, it doesn't mean that we should like take advantage and like smoke pot and
you can still go to hell.
Maybe, you know, I don't know. Like we don't know really from where people are coming from. Like Prabhupada's father, you know, he well, maybe it's too of a delicate thing to mention that. But anyways, but there are really wild personalities in the Chaitanya Charitamrita who like gamble, you know, who like there's Chintamani, Bila Mangala Thakur's prostitute. She is a prostitute, you know, Prabhupada says his spiritual master incarnated as a prostitute to pull him out of material existence.
Oh yeah.
Bila Mangala Thakur, that story, that makes sense. So Prabhupada mentions how, you know, don't finish your business this life, so I don't have to come as a prostitute to rescue you. He speaks like that. Yeah, Prabhupada's humor, you know, it's worth so much, it's priceless. So, anyways, yeah, it's not, that's not the beginning. The beginning of spiritual life is when we do something for the spiritual master, something that he wants us to do too, which is part of the service attitude. If Prabhupada asks you milk, and you bring him, you know, bananas, you know, no, he wants milk. You bring him the milk. Yeah, stop bragging.
What? No,
yeah,
I mean,
please.
it's good. Radhanath Swami says that the order of the spiritual master should be your life and soul. You should make the order of the spiritual master your life and soul. Although, okay, yeah, so association with pure devotees. Although many different processes for developing love of Godhead have been explained so far, Srila Rupa Goswami now gives us a general description of how one can best achieve such a high position.
Everyone is writing.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Everyone is writing?
Yeah. I'm getting the shortcut here.
Yeah.
How to achieve the best result.
Yeah. The beginning of ecstatic love of Godhead is basically faith. There are many societies and associations of pure devotees. And if someone with just a little faith begins to associate with such societies, his advancement to pure devotional service is rapid. The influence of a pure devotee is such that if someone comes to associate with him with a little faith, he gets a chance of hearing about the Lord from authoritative scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by the mercy of the Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, one gradually develops his faith in the descriptions of such authoritative scriptures. This is the first stage of association with pure devotees. In the second stage, after one becomes a little advanced and mature, he automatically offers to follow the principles of devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee and accepts him as a spiritual master.
That's initiation. like the formal initiation.
Bhajana Kriya. That's the one that comes at. That's the first one after Neophyte.
Well, it's not necessarily reflects anyone's advancement, but it's the gradation of proper describes faith. So the first is a faith, then faith to associate with devotees. Like I like how Prabhupada mentions there are many societies of pure devotees. I remember now that there was a society, a Christian society, and they got all Prabhupada's books and they asked Prabhupada if he can be their, like, what we call acharya. So they have like a term like that. So they elected Prabhupada as their like acharya for their Christian like church.
Oh yeah.
And Prabhupada agreed, yeah, sure. It's my honor to be, part of your society of pure devotees. So, yeah, and then Bhajana Kriya.
Yeah. Guys. The devotee executes regulative devotional service, and as a result, such activities, he becomes free from all unwanted occupations. When he is freed from unwanted occupations, his faith becomes steadily fixed, and he develops a transcendental taste for devotional service, then attachment, then ecstasies, and then last stage there is pure love of God. There are the different stages of the development of pure love. Only the most fortunate.
I have a question. Unwanted occupations are anarthas? Is that what he's referring to?
Simple activities, I guess. Anarthas, yeah.
Oh, unwanted occupations. Okay, like unwanted activities. So maybe not anarthas, but just like karmic activities.
Well, like a simple, like sin comes in the different forms of like the seeds, right? The unmanifested ones, and then when the desires for simple acts from previous activities, the seed fructifies, and then it comes forth as a sinful action. So, right?
Well, it sounds to me like this is an art and liberty. After initiation, after one accepts some regulative principles, it's not enough just to accept them and externally follow something, but to actually embrace the concept of pure life and purify the unwanted occupation as, sinful life. And then there's like a big gap, actually, I think we mentioned it yesterday or sometime before, between anartha and nivritti. After someone finishes anartha and nivritti, which by itself is like, takes about 300 lifetimes to get rid of gross sex desire. Prabhupada actually says one should make a feast when he reaches that stage. It's quite interesting. I still don't really know what it means, but anyway, so between one finishes the gross sex desire or gambling desire or whatever, all these or gross meat-eating desire, up to liberation, there is lobha, kama, pratishta, kutinati. There are like 7 more states of this like subtle sex desire, like fault-finding, greed, lust, distinction, and desire to be God, ultimately.
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of connects to unwanted occupations too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything which is unwanted, yeah. Like you cannot serve God if you want to be God. Right? It doesn't go together.
Yeah.
So that's the last snare of Maya. That Maya is so powerful that imagine like you finish sex desire 300 lifetimes. Yes, you got it. No more greed. You don't care if you have $1 million or 1 penny. You don't find flaw with anyone. Kutinati, ahimsa, jiva himsana. You don't commit any violence. There are different gradations of violence, not just like external, but not many times Prabhupada describes as not preaching, not elevating people to Krishna consciousness is violence. You finished all of that, and then at the end, Maya comes and, okay, my boy, my girl, guess what? You God, you Krishna, Radharani.
Yeah.
And if you start believing it, you finish.
Yeah, it says in the Manashiksha that even after you get rid of all the lust, anger, greed, all those.
Bhakti Siddhanta's Manashiksha. Okay?
I can't remember who writes it right now, but it's in the room. So even after all those are gone, then there still remains deceit and hypocrisy. So which I guess would be related to thinking that you're God.
That's it's before. That's the highest unwanted occupation. We all want to be God.
Yeah. And angry at Krishna for it.
Yeah, like what dear Govinda today was sharing in the morning, it really touched me because it's like it's so inconceivable that we dared, or I mean, we just jumped on the board of arguing with Krishna for like who knows how long, and Krishna was just literally begging us, don't go there. It's like people are passing stool and indulging in connecting their urine holes, and like why? Stay here. Every talk is a song and every walk is a dance, man. Like desire trees, you don't need to cook. I mean, I love cooking, but it's not the same cooking like there, it's like no need of going and like, lamenting for not having enough hing and, anyways, or yin.
Yeah. Or getting full and not being able to eat more.
No need of eating, no need of sleeping. Like now is Ekadashi. In Vrindavan and Ekadashi, people would fast for 2 days. Yeah. Ekadashi in Vrindavan, Ekadashi means first day you do nirjala, you eat nothing, you drink nothing, and the second day you do water fast, you just drink water.
Wow.
And the whole night you chant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's Ekadashi.
Yeah, when I was there, I tried to do that with people. It's like every two weeks you have a rave,
Oh, yeah.
and you go and you do a 24-hour kirtan through the night, and like LSD and these drugs, it's like cannot compare to that what you're going through when you do that.
Oh,
yeah. Prabhupada sometimes he says that we follow Ekadashi 4 times in a month. It's only 2 because it falls on every full or new and dark moon or something like that. Yeah. But the 4 stands for the real, Vrindavan Basis, that some real service on Ekadashi. Yeah. And not like I sometimes I do this like 1 day of fasting and I'm like I just go and I lay down for half of the day. Yeah. I saw this one meme on Krishna is my husband, or one of these meme pages on Instagram, and like if it's like a special fasting day, so I don't remember. Anyways, but it's like a trick, the devotees that will wake up at noon, when you have to break the fast. Okay, but like we can do that, but it's like the festival is just not complete.
Yeah.
That's part of the. It's like when I used to live in Vancouver, like we would drive to Shambhala high on like I didn't do ecstasy, but like high on MDMA or whatever, and then we would get there and do some other drugs, and so everything is a drug in Krishna consciousness, and the prasadam is like it's not just taking the prasadam, but giving the prasadam. The whole relationship with the prasadam is too. It's like a peak of ecstasy for the devotees. And Vrindavan is such a nice atmosphere. You go to the temple and people looking for you to give you prasadam. They don't even know who the hell are you, but they want to give you prasadam. It happened to me in Radha Govinda death. Like people just surround you and want to give you these ladus that they can get only 8 of them in a day or whatever serving. Yeah. And the whole exchange of this rasa, of this mellow, is just it's a nice time, Ekadashi, to do that. Like stay the whole night and just chant 64 rounds.
We did it in the Montreal temple a few times.
You would stay the whole night and
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
some of the Matajis were doing it more, because there was a really advanced brahmachari came through from France, and he was so romantic and tell all these so beautiful stories. And with this nice French accent, they just all fell in love with him. And then when he left, they were doing Ekadasi, full night Ekadasi until he came back.
Yeah. It's really exciting. Like Janmastami, it's like last two Janmastamis, I think I celebrated them alone, but still it was so ecstatic. Where I was last? No, I was in New York last Janmastami.
Only the most fortunate persons can achieve such success in life. Those who are simply academic students of the Vedic scriptures cannot appreciate how such a development takes place in the Narayan Pancharatra. Lord Shiva therefore tells Parvati, "My dear Supreme Goddess, you can know from me that any person who has developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love, cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body or mind. Affection and the My dear Supreme Goddess, you can know from me that any person who has developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love, cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body or mind. Affection. And
can you repeat that sentence? You cannot perceive before that.
Cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body and mind.
But why?
If they have an ecstatic love of Godhead. Yeah.
Yeah, there is this. I'm gonna try to find after that. Yeah. There's this letter Prabhupada says if you chant, you can counteract even poisoning, or you can counteract if you fall. Prabhupada says if you fall from the roof and you break your bones and you chant, you're not gonna feel pain. I don't know.
No, there was one story of this one brahmacharini who got hit by a car while they were doing books, and then they said she was chanting in the ambulance on the way back, and they said they couldn't understand how she was so peaceful because her internal organs were like destroyed, and they remarked like how she was able to. Normally somebody would be screaming, you know. Yeah.
It's like I think a few paragraphs before Prabhupada was mentioning that if someone is completely attached to the holy name, regardless of what's happening to him externally, is in a pure state of consciousness. So, well, I'm not sure if it's the same Mataji, but there was a similar instance, and Prabhupada said she went back home and she got it.
Yeah.
She wasn't even initiated formally and things like that. She was crossing the street. Someone
carrying
took
a box of books and got hit by a man or something like that. Right? Yeah. Pretty nice. Well, and there's this, I always think of my reference for this is, I told it in the advanced story about Bhakti Tirtha Swami. In his final days, he was cancer all through his body. He even tried to lift a suitcase and his collarbone broke because the cancer was chewing through his bones, and the pain can't even reach it to the bones. So he was in excruciating pain all the time and no sleep and one day Radhanath Swami, they would go meet and talk about Krishna and that. And one day he was not able to focus. He was having a hard time, and because he was in so much pain, and his whole body started shaking. He was in so much pain. And then Radhanath Swami just started chanting to him. And he said, all of a sudden, Bhakti Tirtha Swami's face just lit up, and he had a smile from ear to ear, unearthly smile. And he just started shaking his head back and forth, saying, it doesn't get better than this. It doesn't get better than this. I wouldn't trade my place with anyone else in the world, you know? And he said that he became like the most innocent little child. and chanting with Ramaswamy, and yeah, that's one of my favorites, all-time favorite stories. You definitely don't hear of anything like that in this world. Yeah. So his body was shaking, but still at the same time he was completely blissful. Affection and the dealings of love are different branches of the original tree of love, preceding the many varieties of affectionate manifestations, which will not be discussed here.
John, properly said.
It's like it's like a funny, I could take it as like a joke problem. Affection and the dealings of love in different branches of the original tree of love, preceding the many varieties of affectionate manifestations, which will not be discussed here. These different manifestations have been described by Sanatana Goswami in his Bhagavatamrita. Although the subject of such affections and dealings of love are very confidential, Sanatana Goswami has described them very explicitly.
Very confidential means it's not for new facts.
I saw somebody reading one of these books in the temple one day. I peeked over. I didn't know what he was reading.
It's very fortunate to be on that level.
What he said, oh, you have to be in a certain mood, but it was quite
it's
intimate.
okay.
I'm not going to give any description,
we
but
can keep on reading.
It was quite esoteric. Sri Rupa Goswami thus concludes the first division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, offering up his treatise for the transcendental pleasure of Sanatana Goswami, who has established the transcendental beauty, and of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. It appears from this statement that the great Srila Jiva Goswami was not yet active when Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was written. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta summary study of the first division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu up to the descriptions of the ecstatic love of Godhead, which are to follow next.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Continuous slide, right?
Transcendental mellow.
Oh, yes. Hare Krishna.
I wasn't paying enough attention to understand how that was related to the pure devotees, but it's good.
Wow, part 2. Here we go. So what, we wait till we break the Ekadashi?
I've already eaten.
No, I mean
green if you want. Green? That's
like in Vrindavan?
Oh yeah. I don't know.
You mean like reading until like 7 in the morning? That's a nice mood.
Yeah, I don't know. We kind of spoke about it, so I'm like trying to provoke some craziness. Not for me. I'm not there. I'm very motivated to go to bed at some point. Not that I was really doing that. But yeah, it's interesting how Prabhupada brings all these things exactly when I feel I personally need them. It's like Krishna sends, like Queen Kunti, she prays for difficulties, and I mean this is really a gate, like a gate to experiencing, to like go crazy for Krishna, like in difficult situations that I have, like either it's like here with Brielle or in general, like I would usually just like go and like take drugs or do something stupid. But if you do something stupid in Krishna consciousness, like just read the whole Bhagavatam in one setting, or like chant 108 rounds.
Yeah.
It's like it's
purifying.
Not quite there, but I'm progressing. Yesterday I didn't feel good at all, so I just stayed in my room all day. But I ended up watching some videos of this woman, saintly woman, healing people emotionally. And so read a little bit. And I was meditating on Krishna because I was angry at him.
Why don't we start seeing what it's about? This, I don't think I read actually. Wow, I read really twice even this part, because I would usually just go back to the introduction when I touch this transcendental mellows. Anyone past this point in Nectar of Devotion? You read through this already? No?
In the Bhakti Shastri, they told us they
Not to read.
They mentioned.
I'm excited you hear even more. My godmother, he was like really strict. Like when we read that like maybe like 5-6 times, and every time we would just go back. And I read it once, like by myself. And I don't know. So who is into that?
Wow.
Should we read?
I'm freaking down. Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying, does Prabhupada recommend, like, what
Well,
is
it's his
Prabhupada
book.
Yeah.
It's Prabhupada's book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we can start and maybe Dear Govinda gonna come. It's not us.
But what does Prabhupada recommend with Nectar of Devotion?
Yeah, to read it.
Read. Okay. I so far my readings of Nectar of Devotion are always my favorite. Like I think this might be my favorite book.
I used to, and before I got the Kindle, I would travel only with Nectar of Devotion for like 2 years.
Yeah. It's pretty nice.
It's super sweet. It's like so personal, and like I love going into details about love, basically. It's really nice.
I really like the introduction. I can't remember anything from it, but I really like it. I was just thinking, man, I wish I could just get my uncle to read this. He's a Christian, right? But he just from that, you just understand that this is so far beyond what many of the other traditions are giving. Like it's just really nice.
For me, it's so visual. Like all of Prabhupada's books are visual, but Prabhupada is really juicy in this book.
Yeah,
it's really, really
juicy,
visual, and like there is this chapter. Like my favorite chapter in Krishna book is descriptions of autumn, and there was this one Japanese artist who did this book, Light of the Bhagavatam. Maybe you heard Light of the Bhagavatam. We have it here. You can have a look at it. And it's a beautiful Oriental illustrations, and it's really like that. Like you can make a whole, like illustrate it, and it's so visual. Everything Prabhupada's going to describe here, especially in this section.
Nice. Read it or not?
Yes, we will. Part 2, Transcendental Mellow. In the second division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the author offers his respectful obeisances to Sanatan. The Sanatan can be interpreted either Shri Krishna himself or as Sanatana Goswami, the older brother and spiritual master of Rupa Goswami. In the case where Sanatana is accepted to mean Shri Krishna, the obeisances are offered to Krishna because he is naturally so beautiful, and because he is the killer of the demon Aghasur, right? Is that the horse or I don't remember?
That's the snake, right?
Aghasur. All right, into the mouth of Aghasur. You got it. You get a laddu tomorrow.
Yeah.
We still have laddus. If it is interpreted to mean Sanatana Goswami, then it is because he is so greatly favored by Rupa Goswami, being always served by him, and because he is the annihilator of all kinds of sinful activities. In this division of all kinds of sinful activities, in this division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the author wants to describe the general symptoms of the transcendental mellow, loving mood of discharging devotional service. In this division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are 5 general topics: Vibhav, special symptoms of ecstasy; Anubhav, subsequent ecstasy; Sattvika Bhav, constitutional ecstasy, Vyabhachari bhav, aggressive ecstasy, and sthai bhav, fervent. I want to check this word. What is fervent? Like from fever?
Fervent.
Something intense. I don't know the exact thing, but it would be some form of intense.
Yeah, the Kindle cannot pick up this word for some reason.
I can do it really quick. Hold on. Having or displaying a passionate intensity.
The word rasa used, who asked yesterday what is rasa? The word rasa used in the Bhakti Rasa Mitra Sindhu is understood by different persons differently, because the English equivalent is very difficult to find. But as we have seen our spiritual master translation to this word rasa into mellow, we shall follow in his footsteps and also translate this word in that way. I think one of you asked what is rasa yesterday.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, you asked for rasa. Okay.
The particular loving mood or attitude relished in the exchange of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called rasa or mellow. In Russian, rasa means the rain that accumulates, like not the rain, but you know when you walk after night, there's like an accumulated layer of like water on the grass. So that's like in Russian, dew. So that in Russian, rasa means that.
Oh, okay.
Or mellow. The different types of rasa, when combined together, help one to taste the mellow of devotional service in the highest degree of transcendental ecstasy. Such a position, although eternally transcendental to our experience, eternally. Can you read that word, eternally? I don't think I'm not reading it.
Entirely.
That's entirely, okay. Entirely transcendental to our experience. Will be explained in the section as far as possible. Following in the footsteps of Sri Rupa Goswami, without relishing some sort of mellow or loving mood in one's activities, no one can continue to perform such activities. Similarly, in the transcendental life of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, there must be some mellow or specific taste from that service. Yeah, many times in books, people, they ask me like on the street, like, what is Bhakti Yoga? Or they say like, I don't have Bhakti, or all these things, or, you know, putting themselves down, but, you know, Bhakti is always there. It's an integrated part of our material life too, like Prabhupada explains. Without having some rasa or Bhakti or love, you cannot do anything.
Yeah, it's like a taste. It makes sense.
Yeah. We need to have some pleasure, some taste, and
yeah.
Materially, the difference that it's just.
What's your grungy racket? Where you get it from?
Yeah, some limited stock, and once this grungy is not satisfied, you go to another. But the rasa remains the same. The rasa, we want to be loved in a particular way. And I noticed, like in maybe, you know, the more advanced Sattva practitioners and coaches, maybe they can reflect on that, how relationships sometimes they have like a very down, they're like at their stakes when people, they change how they perceive each other, like when the rasas change, like when the mother, you know, in the eyes of the mother, the son is always her like little tiny toddler. But then when he grows up and he's a mature man and he has children, and it disturbs him sometimes that the mother, she treats him as a little baby still. And it's like, I see that kind of like we have that rasa with Krishna, with each and one of us, regardless of our material rasa. And if we connect to that, it's actually the most pleasing thing. But otherwise, we're just changing, and the relationship they get ruined too, because one is still trying to accept someone as his lover, although she or he doesn't love him, and the other is seeing the person as, I don't know, his boss, and it doesn't go together.
Yeah.
Because the rasas, they don't match.
Yeah, rasa basa.
Rasa basa. Is it in Spanish? Rasa basa.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking of it, the false ego is not nice, but it's also quite childish.
Mm. Yeah. I'm sure that's how you perceive the false ego.
I don't know. I'm just making some obscure connection that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but what do you say, Prabhu? Is it like that from your experience of interpersonal communication?
When you say like that, were you gonna say something?
Well, that relationships they don't work, or there is a very a bad situation is created in a relationship because they perceive each other they don't perceive each other in the same way, or the rasa, this kind of what I'm trying to connect to, how we not we're not aligned with the rasa.
Everyone is supposed to see all women as mother,
for example,
and except for your wife.
Yeah.
There may be
maybe
some
a woman,
situations of confusion. Oh, yeah, that's the often in the military and the war, that the ones that are injured, they would fall in love with their nurse.
Mm. Yeah, one of the sides is captivated by the rasa, by the type of relationship, and the other side might be just doing his service rasa. I'm just serving. I'm not looking for a relationship with that person. Anyways, I
feel like there's multiple dimensions to what you're trying to say, but I kind of get what you mean. There's the mother still sees the son as a child, and the son sees himself, or he doesn't really want to relate to his mother as a child anymore. I know I've read this in a book about rites of passages. Mm-hmm. How important it is that the young male actually gets separated from the mother. That's normally when the son reaches a certain time, then he needs to be, when he's transitioning and being a
Atmananda. Is it Atmananda?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, it needs to be, he would be separated from the mother for a time period, and then go and be only with men and do certain activities to cut that bond in his consciousness of that relation to her as his mother and him as a child, and how essential that was for them to be able to mature into a full-grown man.
Well, that's why, especially
then he would come back. The relationship was different. Maybe not for her, but I get what you mean.
That's why, especially boys, they in adolescence, correct me if I'm wrong. Boys and girls, it's kind of the same thing nowadays. But boys, they would be very rebellious in adolescence if they stick to their parents' house, and it's a mess, because it's not natural. The natural thing is that the boy goes out and he learns how to coordinate in the world without this, support or whatever. Anyways,
but if what we're talking about actually rasa, like I feel like we're talking about something that's not, like, is rasa something that's experienced in conditioned souls to other conditioned souls, or is rasa just something that's only between Krishna and the conditioned soul?
Atmananda Prabhu, please save us.
Prabhupada can save us. Prabhupada is saving us.
That's why
I wasn't going to say anything, but Brielle, you brought up such an important question. We all have an eternal rasa with Krishna.
Yeah.
And being eternal, that rasa is my understanding is that rasa is manifest in this world in a perverted way according to our present conditioning. Mm-hmm. So rasa exists always and everywhere, just as we always exist. But the perfection of rasa is with Krishna, and because we're trying to enjoy here without Krishna, we try to have those rasas, but it's all perverted. It's like the highest enjoyment in this world is sex life, whereas in the spiritual world, there's no physical sex. But in the material world, it's considered one of, or the most degraded forms of enjoyment, selfishness, whereas in the spiritual world, it's the highest. So it's that mirror, that banyan tree example where, that's my, what do you think, Brielle?
Oh, Prabhu, you tell me. I have no idea. I just feel like what we were talking about, at least what's been discussed the past 10 minutes, is very different than what is the nectar of devotion right now, I think.
Probably
yes.
They're talking about in the nectar of devotion is the spiritual rasa. There may be some material application to the word, but most likely.
But I do want to know, like, does it apply between jiva souls?
If we have rasa in relation to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have relationships, so relationship based on certain mellow, mother, father, sister, like the husbands and wives and couples are there in Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan, but Krishna.
But that's not.
That's why it's not perverted there.
But that's what you're talking about is like roles, which would be more like swarup, right? But rasa is like the mellow, the taste. Mm-hmm. So different, isn't it?
I think the role and the mellow are one on the pure platform. My role with Krishna, or I'm a friend of Krishna or a parent, it's a role, but it's actually it's complete in the sense that it's directly with Krishna. So that rasa, that mellow, that taste, I think is included. So they go together, although they may not be exactly the same.
Okay, interesting.
That's what my understanding is.
Maybe if we continue reading, Prabhupada will.
Please carry on. I'm not in the situation to talk so much, but you twisted my arm.
If you would like to catch up, Atmananda Prabhu, we just started reading part 2 of Nectar of Devotion, chapter 20th, Transcendental Mellow. And where did we stop?
What's the name of the chapter again?
Transcendental Mellow.
Yes.
Chapter 20.
Please carry on.
Okay, where did we stop? The particular loving mood or attitude relished in exchange for the love, we read that, right? But we read something about the material world here.
I think we're at this relishing of transcendental mellow in discharging devotional service.
Yeah, you can continue, Brielle. I don't know where we are.
This relishing of transcendental mellow in discharging devotional service cannot be experienced by all classes of men, because this sweet, loving mood is developed only from one's previous life's activities or by the association of unalloyed devotees. As explained above, association with pure devotees is the beginning of faith in devotional service. Only by developing such faith in the association of a pure devotee, or by having in one's previous life executed devotional activities, can one actually relish the mellow of devotional service. In other words, this transcendental bliss is not to be enjoyed by any common man unless he is so extraordinarily fortunate as to be in association with devotees or to be continuing his previous birth's devotional activities.
Mm.
The gradual process of development to the stage of devotional service is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto. The beginning is to hear about Lord Krishna and the association of devotees who have themselves cleansed their hearts by association. Hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord will result in one's feeling transcendental bliss always. It is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita that for one who has actually come to the spiritual platform, the first symptom visible will be that he is always joyful.
Brahma Bhuta Parasanatmana Sochati Nakanchati Samasarveshu Bhutashu Mad Bhakti Bhakti Param. No lamentation, no hankering. Prabhupada, he goes too deeper into that concept and he explains how we can all judge by our amount of greed and lust, how much we relishing these transcendental mellows. If there is a teaching that we're not there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know about myself, I'm not there, so I'm safe.
This joyous life. Oh, go ahead.
It's okay. I was just gonna make it. It's fine.
This joyous life is attained by one's reaction to reading the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, or else from associating with persons who are very interested in the spiritual life of Krishna consciousness, specifically those who have made the determination to achieve the favor of Govinda by being engaged in transcendental loving service at his lotus feet. Being encouraged by such a feeling, one who is constantly engaged in discharging the regulative principles of devotional service in such a way as to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead develops two principles of compelling force, which come under the heading of Vibhav. Thus one enjoys transcendental bliss. Compelling force. Should we keep reading or should we stop and reflect? There's a lot of stuff to think about.
Stop and reflect.
I'm okay with reading.
I just want to add one thing, Brielle. I think I jumped in without really making sure I understood your question before, so I caught myself afterwards, but I just wanted to share that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Prabhu.
I think what you shared, Atmananda Prabhu, was right on the point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he kind of answered, Prabhupada just kind of answered us. Where was it? Yes. See, but this is talking about the transcendental mellow, which is like, is there a mellow that is not transcendental that can exist between jivas?
Yeah, totally. That's why we're stuck here.
I think Prabhupada says at least in one place that we came here to imitate Radha and Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
In a place where, in a way, and on a level it's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're screwing it up so bad now.
But I kind of took your question, to in a sense, how is there a mellow in the spiritual world with anyone else but Krishna?
I was actually talking about in the material world. I feel like in the spiritual world, we do have like, I would imagine there are mellows between jivas in the spiritual world. I was wondering about in the material world.
Yeah, perverted. I think that's what Atmananda he was sharing, that it's perverted, and I connect to that a lot. That's what it says in the beginning of the 15th chapter. This creation is a tree which is growing its roots upwards and something downwards.
Yeah, Prabhupada says that everything in the material world exists because it exists in the spiritual world. And conversely, we're we go through, we experience, we do in this world because they're in the spiritual world and because we've had them. If you've lost something, you know how to look for it because you know what it looks like. Mm-hmm. We've lost our relation with Krishna, and we're trying to enjoy it here in the desert where there's only mirage, reflection of it.
I think I'm understanding that, like, in the spiritual world, we relate to one another, but Krishna is always in the center. And so through that, there's definitely this like mellow where like that's really the purpose of the relationship. But in the material world, we're taking out that center and trying to put ourselves and our enjoyment there. And so that's why I was wondering, can there really be a mellow because we're missing like the source of the mellow? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got it right on. Yeah. And your question, I think your question, if I understand correctly, your question is, can there be a spiritual rasa in the material world? Maybe more specifically, can there be a purely spiritual rasa in this world? Maybe you're not asking that, but that's kind of my sense.
I wasn't asking that, but that's an interesting question too. I was more thinking like in like regular human to human relationships, is there like, do we experience rasa or is it just something that's totally different, you know?
Well, I guess if you look in the mirror, you see something, or if there's a reflection in the river, like the upside down banyan tree, it's real, but it's not real. Prabhupada, he says it can't be false because it's Krishna's energy, but he calls it, he uses the term illusory.
Yeah.
Or temporary manifested, like the universal form, it's material in the sense that it's temporarily manifested. Krishna is not exhibiting that in a constant, uninterruptible potency.
Yeah. And Prabhupada uses the example of dreaming many times. He says, when you're in a dream and the tiger's attacking you or something, you feel terrified. It's in that consciousness, in that darkness, that ignorance, it's real. But then when you wake up, whoa, hang on. It wasn't real. It was temporarily real for me. So, yeah. And I really appreciate the Sapatov approach because I think it takes us up into the mode of goodness from our lower modes so that we can get closer to the real experience of relationship. And then one devotee used the example of when you want to fly to Los Angeles, for example, you don't just jump up in the air and grab onto the airplane wing or something, or try to get in the door. You go to the airport and you go through. Yeah, so the airport, this devotee said, is compared to the mode of goodness. So it's the stepping stone. It's the place in which we prepare to go from goodness to Shuddha-sattva, pure goodness, which is what is being described here in the Nectar of Devotion. The pure original relationships, as Ramchandra, you were just describing, uninterrupted, etc. So I said I wasn't going to talk much. I'm going to mute myself and just listen, please.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Don't talk about such interesting things.
We can't help ourselves. It's Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada.
Prabhupada makes it all interesting. I will control myself.
No, be spontaneous, Prabhu.
All right, I'll see. Thank you. Please carry on.
Who is reading next? Don't stop, Prabhu. So Maya won't penetrate.
There are several origins or causes for the compulsive love of Krishna, such as Krishna himself, the devotees of Krishna, Krishna's playing on the flute, etc. The effect is sometimes loving and sometimes stunted. There are 8 transcendental siddhams found in the body during ecstasy, and all of them are possible only by a mixture of the above-mentioned 5 ecstatic divisions. Without some mixture of these 5 ecstatic principles, one cannot relish transcendental bliss. The cause or basis for relishing transcendental mellow is exactly so he uses the term transcendental mellow. So I guess definitely in this he's talking about transcendental qualities. This vaibhav is divided into two, namely basic. Okay, hold on. The cause or basis for relishing transcendental mellow is exactly what we mean by vaibhav. This vaibhav is divided into two, namely basic and impetuous. Basic and impetuous. The Agni Purana. Impetuous. I don't know.
Acting or done quickly or without thought or care.
Okay. In the Agni Purana, the description of vaibhav is given as follows. The basis from which ecstatic love is born is called.
That's the same Purana Lord Chaitanya found with the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Paranamrita.
Agni Purana?
Yes, Krishna.
The basis from which ecstatic love is born is called vaibhav, which is divided into two basic and impetuous. In other words, there are two kinds of ecstatic love. The object of basic ecstatic love is Krishna and his devotees. Lord Krishna is the object of basic ecstatic love, and his pure devotee, a reservoir of such love, is the object of impetuous ecstatic love. Impetuous ecstatic love then is that love which develops when one sees an object which reminds him of Krishna.